Story 1. The closed ride that operated itself. I had just turned 19 when I got the night security job at Maplewood Amusement Park. It wasn't Disneyland by any stretch, just a local park with a few rides, a Ferris wheel, and its pride and joy, the Timber Howl, an old wooden roller coaster that locals swore was haunted. The ride had been closed for years due to structural issues, but rumors around town said otherwise. Kids dared each other to sneak in at night, claiming they heard screaming coming from the tracks. Some even said they saw the coaster running with no one on it. I didn't believe in ghost stories, I just needed the paycheck. My first shift started at midnight. My supervisor, a middle-aged guy named Bill, gave me a quick rundown. Stay in the security booth, do your rounds every hour, and whatever you do, don't go near the coaster after 3 a.m. I laughed, thinking he was just trying to scare the new guy. But his expression stayed dead serious. I mean it, kid. Just don't. The park at night was a different world. Empty rides creaked in the wind, and the colorful lights that looked cheerful during the day now flickered like dying candles. The sound of my own footsteps echoed across the empty walkways. At 2 a.m. second round, I walked past the Timber Howl. The entire ride loomed in darkness, the wood groaning under the breeze. I was about to move on when I heard it. A faint click-clack, like the sound of the chain pulling the coaster uphill. I froze. The ride wasn't supposed to have power. The noise got louder, followed by the unmistakable whoosh of a coaster car speeding down the track. I spun around. The track was empty. No cars, no riders. Just the sound of the ride completing its circuit and stopping where the station would have been. My radio crackled suddenly, making me jump. "Everything good, rookie?" Bill's voice came through. I hesitated, then said, yeah, all good." I didn't mention what I heard. When I returned to the booth, I tried to shake it off. But out of the corner of my eye, I could see the silhouette of the coaster against the moonlight. And I swear I saw one of the cars rocking back and forth on its own. I didn't sleep that morning. After my shift ended, I sat in my car for nearly an hour, hands gripping the steering wheel, heart still pounding from what I'd seen. When I finally got home, I tried to convince myself it was a malfunction. Maybe someone had left the power on. Maybe the blood was just rust mixed with rainwater. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The next evening, before my shift, I went to the public library to dig into the park's history. Old newspaper archives told me everything Bill and Frank hadn't. 30 years ago, the Timber Howl derailed mid-ride. 3 cars flew off the tracks, killing 7 riders, including a young boy named Daniel Huxley. His mother had begged the park to tear the ride down, claiming she saw her son's face in the coaster's windows at night. The park shut the ride down for months, but after some repairs, they quietly reopened it. Accidents continued, smaller ones, but enough to scare employees. Finally, 5 years ago, a night operator went missing. They found his flashlight on the track, but never found him. The next night at work, I confronted Bill. "You knew about the deaths, didn't you?" He didn't even deny it. "Kid, this place is built on blood. That ride should have been torn down years ago." But the owners didn't want to lose their legacy attraction. People died, and the park covered it up. I asked him why he still worked there. "Because I need the job," he muttered, staring at the floor. "Same as you. Just don't mess with that ride. Do your rounds and keep your head down." But I couldn't. Something inside me needed to know more. When the clock hit 3 a.m. on my third night, I grabbed my flashlight and headed straight for the Timber Howl. The air was different, heavier, almost suffocating. The ride stood silent, but as I approached, the temperature dropped so sharply that I could see my breath. I climbed up to the control booth. Dust covered everything. The control panel was dark, no power. And yet, when I touched one of the levers, it was warm, as if someone had just been there. Then the sound started again. Click-clack, click-clack, the chain pulling the car uphill. My flashlight flickered as I peered into the dark track. The car crested the first hill and came flying down, the wheels screeching like screams. And this time, it wasn't empty. For a split second, I saw them. Figures half-transparent, screaming, their faces twisted in agony. Blood dripped from their eyes. One of them, a young boy in a striped shirt, looked directly at me. "Help us," he mouthed, his voice echoing in my head. The car disappeared into the darkness, and I staggered back, nearly falling. Suddenly, the door to the control booth slammed shut behind me. I spun around, yanking on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The lights on the panel flickered to life on their own. The ride roared back to life, every bulb glowing as if it were the middle of the day. A voice whispered right behind me, "Your turn." The next thing I knew, something shoved me forward. I stumbled out onto the platform as the car rolled into place. The lap bar lifted, waiting for me. And then it slammed down across my chest, trapping me in the seat. The car jerked forward and I screamed for help, but no one was there. The chain dragged me up the first hill, the night sky spinning above me. At the top, I saw them again, ghostly figures standing along the track, watching silently. As the car plunged down, icy hands grabbed at me, pulling at my arms, my face. I tried to fight, but my body felt numb. The world blurred into darkness as the ride twisted and turned, faster than any coaster should. Every scream that tore from my throat was drowned out by hundreds of others, voices of the dead, crying, begging, laughing manically. The boy appeared beside me, his hollow eyes staring. "You shouldn't have come here," he whispered. The car slammed to a stop in the station. The lap bar released, but when I looked down at my hands, they were pale, almost transparent. The station around me faded, replaced by endless blackness. The last thing I heard before everything went dark was the voice of Bill crackling through my radio. "Kid, you there? Hello?" When the sun rose, workers found the ride completely still. The control booth was empty. My flashlight lay on the platform, the glass cracked, but there was no sign of me. The park announced that I had quit unexpectedly. My paycheck never came. Bill told reporters he had warned me not to go near the coaster. Frank refused to speak at all. A week later, the timber howl was demolished. The wood was burned and the land fenced off. But even now, people say that on quiet nights, they can hear the faint sound of a roller coaster in the distance. And if you listen closely, you'll hear a new voice screaming among the others. Story 2. The mascot that wasn't human. I was 17 when I got a summer job at a theme park called Sunnyvale Kingdom. It was the kind of place that tried to be like Disneyland, but fell somewhere between charming and cheap. Still, it was popular with families, and it paid better than flipping burgers, so I took the job. My role was simple: help clean up after closing and assist with locking up the costume department, where the park's mascots were stored. Sunnyvale's mascots were famous in town: bright, cartoonish animals with oversized heads. Kids loved them. But something about them always made me uneasy. Maybe it was the way their fixed smiles never changed, no matter what. Or the way they stood silently in the costume room after hours, lined up like lifeless sentinels. On my third night, my manager Jin warned me, "If you're closing alone, make sure all the costumes are on their racks. Sometimes actors leave them out. Don't put one on for fun. Ever." I laughed, asking why. She just looked at me and said, "Just don't." That night, as I was sweeping the costume room, I noticed something strange. One of the suits, the park's most popular character, a giant blue bear named Sunny, wasn't where it should be. I assumed an actor forgot to hang it back, so I checked around. The suit was at the far end of the room, standing upright, facing the wall. It wasn't on a hanger. It was just standing there. I approached slowly. Hey, is someone in there?" No answer. I tapped it lightly. The head turned toward me on its own. I froze. The costume's huge, painted-on grin seemed wider than usual. And then it walked away into the dark corner of the room. I ran out of the costume room and locked the door behind me. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the keys. When I told Jen the next day, she brushed it off. "You're just tired. Those suits can be creepy at night." But I knew what I saw. It wasn't an actor. There was no one scheduled to wear the sunny costume that late. The following night, I brought my friend Alex, another employee, with me during closing. We entered the costume room together, and everything seemed normal at first. The suits hung neatly, their big cartoon eyes staring blankly. Then we noticed it again. Sunny wasn't on its rack. Alex smirked. "Probably someone pranking you." He walked to the back of the room. "Hey, whoever's in there, come out." The suit stepped out from behind a row of costumes. Its head tilted unnaturally far to one side, the fabric stretching like skin. There was no zipper on its back. The hands oversized, stuffed paws twitched like real fingers. Alex whispered, "What the hell?" Before we could move, it charged at us with a speed no human could have inside a bulky costume. We bolted out, slamming the door. Inside, something slammed back against it, hard enough to crack the frame. Then silence. The next day, I begged the head of security to let me see the camera feed from last night. At first he refused, but after some convincing, he pulled up the footage. On the screen, we watched ourselves entering the costume room. Everything looked normal until Sunny stepped out. But it didn't move like a person. Its limbs bent wrong, jerking like a marionette. At one point, its head rotated a full 180 degrees, and yet it kept walking. The most disturbing part? When it charged at us, the camera glitched, static filled the screen. When the feed came back, the room was empty. The security guy turned pale. I need to delete this." He erased the footage and told us not to talk about it. By the end of the week, several employees had gone missing. They were last seen near the costume department. The park claimed they quit without notice. Jeanne pulled me aside. "Don't come back after tonight. They won't say it, but they know something's wrong. Just leave this job. I plan to quit. But first, I needed to know what was inside that suit." At 3 a.m. I returned alone. The costume room smelled like mildew and something metallic like blood. Sunny wasn't on its rack. The other costumes swayed slightly, as if breathing. I heard a voice, muffled and childlike, from the darkness. "Play with me." Then the mascot stepped out, towering over me. Its eyes painted on the head were now real, wet and blinking. The mouth opened, revealing rows of sharp teeth where there should have been nothing but fabric. It lunged. I ran, but it was faster, its long arms stretching impossibly to grab me. The last thing I felt was the suit pulling me inside, the fabric closing around me like skin. The next morning, Alex came to work and asked about me. Jun shook her head. He didn't show up, must have quit like the others. But that afternoon, park guests noticed something strange during the parade. The sunny mascot was back, waving to the crowd. Only this time, its smile looked wider. Its eyes glistened as if crying. And faintly, if you stood close enough, you could hear a voice screaming from inside. The park never replaced the costume. It didn't need to. Sunny had a new soul to wear. Story 3, The Haunted Funhouse. The summer I turned 20. I worked at a traveling carnival that stopped in different towns every few weeks. I was assigned to the Mirror Maze Funhouse, a place that looked harmless from the outside. Just a colorful tent with flashing lights and a clown face over the entrance. Inside, though, it was another story. The maze was a labyrinth of mirrors and twisting corridors that disoriented even the staff. The other workers hated going in after dark. One of them, an older guy named Gus, warned me on my first day, "Lock it up before midnight. If you hear laughing when you're inside, get out fast." I laughed it off. How scary could a bunch of mirrors be? On my second night, I was doing my closing rounds alone. The funhouse was empty, but I still felt like I was being watched. Every mirror reflected me back, but something felt off. At one point, I walked past a mirror and stopped. My reflection didn't. It stood still, smiling faintly while I froze in horror. I stepped back. The reflection tilted its head slowly, like a predator sizing up its prey. Then it raised its hand and scratched something across the inside of the glass. A single word appeared in foggy streaks. "Stay." I bolted out of the maze and locked the door behind me. When I came back with Gus to show him, the word was gone. He just muttered, "Told you not to stay late." A few days later, during peak hours, a little girl went missing inside the funhouse. Her mother was hysterical, screaming that she had seen her daughter in the mirrors but couldn't reach her. We searched everywhere. The girl's laughter echoed from every direction, but she was nowhere to be found. Finally, the sound stopped and the maze fell silent. We never found her. The carnival moved to the next town the very next day. No one spoke about it again. That night, when I checked the mirrors, I swore I saw a small handprint on the glass on the inside. Weeks passed, and the nightmares started. Every dream was the same. I was trapped inside the maze, surrounded by hundreds of versions of myself, all grinning with razor-sharp teeth. One night, I decided to face it. I went into the funhouse after midnight, flashlight in hand. The air felt heavy, like the tent itself was holding its breath. As I walked deeper, my reflection stopped mimicking me. One by one, they began moving on their own, twisting their faces into grotesque smiles. Some pressed their hands against the glass, mouthing words I couldn't hear. Others just stared with hollow eyes. Then one of them stepped out of the mirror. It looked exactly like me, but its skin was pale and its smile was too wide. "You don't belong here," it said in my voice, though its lips barely moved. I turned to run, but the mirrors shifted, trapping me in an endless corridor. The doppelganger walked toward me slowly, its footsteps echoing louder than they should. "We've been waiting," it whispered. It lunged. The glass shattered and everything went black. I woke up on the floor of the maze, surrounded by broken glass. My reflection was gone from every mirror. No matter which way I turned, I couldn't find the exit. Hours passed at least. It felt like hours. Finally, I saw light ahead and stumbled toward it. I burst out into daylight, gasping for air. But something was wrong. The carnival looked different. The rides were rusted, the tents torn. And the people, they didn't move. They stood frozen, their faces blank like mannequins. I looked into a cracked mirror near the entrance and saw my reflection smiling back. But I wasn't smiling. "Stay," it said again. The world faded, and I felt myself being pulled back into the glass. The next morning, the carnival workers found the funhouse perfectly intact, with no signs of damage. They assumed I had quit and left during the night. The carnival packed up and moved to the next town. But if you visit the funhouse now, you might see me in one of the mirrors, still pounding on the glass, still screaming for help while my reflection grins and waves at the guests walking by. Story 4. The ride operator's last shift, the summer after high school. I landed a job as a ride operator at Blue Falls Water Park. It wasn't a bad gig, hot sun, free food, and easy work. Most of my shifts were at the Devil's Drop, the tallest slide in the park. It was a 100-foot vertical drop that terrified most guests. The rules were simple: cross your arms, keep your legs together, and don't look down. But the slide had a dark history. Years ago, a teenage girl had drowned in the pool at the bottom. Guests whispered that she was pulled under by something. Management brushed it off as an accident, but old staff swore her spirit still haunted the slide. I didn't believe it. Not until my last shift. Part 2. The night swim. One night, the park stayed open late for a private event. By 11 p.m., the place was empty except for staff. I stayed behind to close the slide area alone. As I walked around, the water in the pool rippled, even though there was no wind. I thought it was just the filtration system. Then I heard it, a faint splash, followed by the sound of someone giggling. "Hello," I called out. No answer. The pool was empty, but the water kept swirling as if something had just dived in. When I turned to leave, I felt a cold drop hit my shoulder, but when I looked up, there was nothing above me. The next day, I told my coworker Mark. He laughed, saying the slide was cursed. They say the girl grabs people's ankles and drags them under. You'll know it's her if you hear the water whisper. I thought he was joking until that night. During closing, I heard it again. The pool water was moving on its own, forming small whirlpools. When I leaned closer, I heard whispers coming from the water itself. It was a girl's voice, soft and sad. "Help me." Then another voice, angry and guttural. "Stay." I stumbled back, heart pounding. Suddenly, the slide's lights flickered on, even though I hadn't touched the controls. The ladder rattled as if someone was climbing it, but no one was there. Part 4, the final descent. On my last shift, I made the mistake of staying to investigate. The park was silent, the moonlight reflecting off the water. The slide lights turned on by themselves again, glowing an eerie blue. The whispers grew louder. "Come down, come down." Something compelled me to climb to the top. Each step felt heavier, as if the air itself was pushing me back. When I reached the top, the pool below looked black like an endless pit. The voice of the girl spoke again, clearer this time. "Save me." Before I could react, the floor beneath me gave way and I was shoved down the slide. The water was freezing, like liquid ice. I shot into the pool at the bottom, but instead of surfacing, something grabbed my ankle and yanked me under. I fought, kicking and clawing, but invisible hands wrapped around my arms, my neck. In the darkness I saw her, a pale girl with long black hair floating around her face, eyes wide with terror. "Stay with me," she whispered, her mouth filling with water. I screamed, but bubbles were all that came out. The world went silent. The water wasn't water anymore. It was thick, like black smoke. I couldn't tell which way was up. Hands kept pulling me deeper and deeper into the darkness. Suddenly, I broke the surface, but it wasn't the pool. I was in a vast, endless ocean under a starless sky. Dozens of pale figures floated around me, their faces twisted in silent screams. The girl swam closer, smiling with sharp, jagged teeth. "Now you're part of us." She grabbed my face, and the world went black again. Part 6. The park opens, twist ending. The next morning, Mark came to open the slide area. The pool was calm, the water crystal clear. But my uniform was neatly folded on the chair, my name tag resting on top. There was no sign of me. Guests rode the Devil's Drop that day as usual, but a few of them swore they felt cold hands grab their legs at the bottom. And some claimed they heard screaming beneath the water, a scream that sounded like it was coming from deep below, where no sunlight could reach. The park still operates the slide today, and if you ever ride it, listen closely when you hit the water. You might hear me screaming for help, before something drags you under to join me. Story 5. The abandoned park that never closed. I had been out of work for months when I got a call from a maintenance company that serviced old amusement parks. The job was simple: spend 3 nights inspecting Hollow Glen Park, an amusement park that had been closed for over 20 years. They didn't tell me why the park was abandoned, only that they needed someone to confirm it was structurally safe before demolition. The pay was more than generous, so I agreed. When I arrived, I understood why no one wanted the job. The park was a graveyard of rides. The Ferris wheel stood frozen, its paint peeled and rusted. The carousel horses were cracked and missing eyes. Weeds grew through the cracked pavement, twisting around broken benches. But the creepiest part? The lights on the entrance gate were still on, faintly flickering, as if the park was waiting for me. I set up camp in the old security booth. Around midnight, I began my first inspection round. As I walked past the rides, I heard faint carnival music drifting through the air. It was out of tune, warped, like a record playing backward. I assumed it was the wind whistling through broken speakers. Then I saw the carousel. It was moving. Slowly, the horses rose and fell, the platform spinning. though the power had been cut years ago. I stood frozen, my flashlight shaking. The music got louder. Shadows of children danced around the ride, but when I swung my light, they vanished. I ran back to the booth and locked the door. The music stopped instantly, but I couldn't sleep because every time I closed my eyes, I saw those shadows spinning. On the second night, I decided to record everything on my phone. I wanted proof. At 2 a.m, I heard the sound of the roller coaster chain clanking to life. I rushed to the screamer, the park's old coaster, and my heart nearly stopped. The ride was fully lit, every bulb glowing bright. Cars full of shadowy figures raced along the track, their screams echoing through the night. When I stepped closer, one of the figures turned its head toward me. Its face was featureless, but its mouth opened wide, letting out an ear-piercing screech that wasn't human. The lights flickered and the ride stopped. The cars were empty again. The park fell silent. When I checked my phone later, the video was just static. The third night, I almost didn't go back. But the money kept me there. Around 3 a.m, I walked through the midway where old game booths lined the path. The smell of popcorn and cotton candy filled the air impossible, because the stands were rotting. Then I saw her. A little girl standing in front of a broken balloon dart game. She wore a faded pink dress, her hair tangled. "Are you lost?" I asked, my voice trembling. She turned to me slowly, her face pale and eyes black as coal. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Before I could move, the lights of every booth blazed on at once, and the girl vanished. The games started running on their own, darts flying, bells ringing. I ran, but the booths seemed to stretch endlessly, trapping me in a maze. Finally, I stumbled out and collapsed near the entrance gate. Behind me, I heard dozens of footsteps, though no one was there. As dawn approached, I searched the old manager's office, desperate for answers. Inside, I found a dusty file labeled Incident Reports -1985. The documents described a horrific accident. A fire had broken out on the coaster, killing dozens of riders. The park tried to cover it up, burying the deaths to avoid bankruptcy. But witnesses claimed they still saw the victims walking the park at night. One report ended with a handwritten note. "The park feeds on the souls of the curious. Don't let it keep you." The lights flickered. The air grew thick. And then I heard laughter, children's laughter echoing from every direction. The rides roared to life all at once. The Ferris wheel spun, the carousel screamed, the roller coaster clattered. Shadows poured out of the attractions, surrounding me, their faces twisted in agony. The little girl appeared again, holding out her hand. "Stay with us." I turned to run, but the ground beneath me shifted like quicksand, pulling me toward the coaster. Hands cold, skeletal hands grabbed me, dragging me into one of the cars. The lap bar locked on its own, and the ride launched forward. The shadows screamed with joy as the coaster sped into darkness. I screamed too, but my voice was swallowed by the night. The ride didn't end. It kept going, faster and faster, until everything blurred into black. The demolition crew arrived the next morning. The park looked dead, as always. No one was there. But when they entered the security booth, they found my phone recording. On the screen, the park was a live ride spinning, lights glowing, shadows dancing. My voice could be heard screaming, "Help me, please." Then the screen went black. The company abandoned the demolition project, declaring the park unsafe. To this day, Hollow Glen still stands, hidden behind a rusted gate. Locals say that if you step inside after midnight, you'll hear the rides running and laughter echoing through the night. And if you're unlucky, you'll see me too, smiling from the roller coaster car, waving for you to take a ride with me. And that wraps up today's video on the top 5 scary theme park employee stories. Working at a theme park might seem like a fun summer job, but after hearing these stories, you might think twice before taking that night shift. From haunted rides to ghostly figures, these employees experience things that defy explanation. Which story creeped you out the most? Was it the ride that operated on its own, the possessed mascot, or the abandoned park that still traps souls to this day? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've ever had your own creepy experience while working late, share it. I might feature it in a future video. If you enjoyed these stories, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another chilling tale. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and remember, some places never really close, and some rides never stop running.